name is Yosef Haim. I came to enter the Jewish people and had my own personal Matan Torah on Kaf Beit Shabbat, the 7th of February of this year. And I just want to basically start by reading from a letter, one of the first letters I wrote to the London Beit Din. And I feel that this letter fully encapsulates everything I was going through at the time of wanting to convert, and it puts really all my emotions and just shows exactly where I was at the time and what led me to convert. So with your permission, I'll read this to you, and B'ezras Hashem, I hope this will be great chizuk to us all. So, dear Rabbi of the London Beit Din Conversion Division, I am writing to you in relation to my desire to convert to Judaism. I have had a growing interest in Judaism for many years, and having given a lot of thought and study, I feel that I cannot go on without seeking conversion and living a Jewish life, observing the precepts, the mitzvot outlined in the Holy Torah. I am currently 23 years old and I work full-time as a civil servant. I was born and brought up in Hinduism, but I did not find the truth in a religion with so many gods and varying and often contradictory belief systems, which are largely based on superstition. I looked into many other religions and spiritual practices, including Christianity, Islam and Buddhism, for truth and inner fulfillment, but I was met with contradictions in their belief systems and a deep inner sense that they weren't true, or they did not lead me to serve God in the right way. Ever since I learned about Judaism and the Torah at school, a fascination has remained in my mind about the traditions, ritual and laws of Judaism. I have read many articles on Judaism and Jewish history, and I read many rabbinical writings such as the Pirkei Avot of the Mishnah, Rambam, Path of the Just, Duties of the Heart, and the Gemara. And I read these on a daily basis. The Jewish scriptures resonate with me, and I'm amazed by the truth and depths of Torah. I've found that Judaism is truly the only rational religion and life path out of any of the existing world religions. The written and oral Torah is full of knowledge which is can be scientifically verified and proves that it really is a divinely inspired text bestowed to mankind from the creator of the world himself. Furthermore, I understand that Judaism is a way of life that is based on national revelation. The giving of the Torah to the Israelites was a situation where there would have been no logical reason for a nation of 3 million people to accept upon themselves and commit to practice all these 613 precepts unless they experienced the Creator himself speaking to them directly, and unless the Torah was an accurate record of what they themselves had experienced. I currently observe to the best of my ability the Noahide laws, which I have researched thoroughly. I can now also read and pronounce Hebrew very well due to my years of study and reading tefillot from the Siddur on a daily basis, reading Tehillim, which I find very moving. I'm also performing many additional mitzvot to the 7, which I'm obliged to keep, such as giving charity, washing my hands on waking up, praying shacharit on a daily basis, and observing kosher laws. I have been attending Central Synagogue in London for Shabbat and for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services. Also, I've spoken with the rabbi of this synagogue concerning my desire to convert, and he has kindly explained the lengthy process. I feel a strong yearning to perform the mitzvot, and I understand that they are very important in the eyes of God. I am drawn to want to be in a Torah-observing community and dwell among the children of Hashem. I feel that every part of the culture and practice of Judaism leads to an ethical and moral way of life. And although I know that I will be told that I can live an ethical and moral way of life as a non-Jew, I simply cannot accept that way of life, since our culture and society today has fallen to very low levels of immorality and immodesty. I cannot conceive how I can continue to live life as a non-Jew and at the same time fear Hashem and observe monotheism to the extent that I currently do, when my entire social circle are so steeped in ungodly trivialities and my family ask me and expect me to observe idolatrous practices. With the help of the London Beit Din, I would like to start the process towards converting and accept upon myself the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, Ol Malchut Shamayim. And in the spirit of Ruth, go to where you go, dwell to where you dwell, and make your people my people, and serve your God as my God, may be his will. Yours sincerely. So, maybe I should explain further some points in the letter, just to clarify and elaborate. I explained at the beginning that I was born brought up in Hinduism. My family were not so strictly observant, but they were more secular and traditional in their observance of this religion. But I was always drawn to, as a young child, to question the big questions about who is God and what is there life after death, and what happens after one dies, what God looks like. And I remember asking my father these questions, like, what does God eat, and what do we believe God looks like, and things like that. And so the answers he would give were sometimes very funny. He would actually, in the end, I came to the conclusion that God was a vegetarian blue man. But this is obviously I accepted it until a certain age, and I thought this can't be right, because it didn't make sense. And as I grew up in this faith, I would ask the teachers of that religion, people that I knew, gurus and various other teachers, what the beliefs were, and often the answers they would give were contradicting one another, and not to mention that there's a big problem with the fact that there's many gods in that religion. So which one is the real one, and which one's more powerful than the other? So that a lot of it, as I grew up, didn't answer my questions and didn't fulfill me inwardly, and so I did seek other paths and other spiritual systems. I was actually brought up, and the school I went to was a Christian school in the southeast of England, and the school obviously made us read the Bible and would teach us various Christian ideas. So I started to discover a lot about this religion, and again, I had no exposure to the Bible before, and my first exposure to it was really about what they would call the New Testament, which is the story of JC. I won't mention his name as we're in the holy place. So I started to, like this story that there was that God had decided to choose his son to sacrifice himself and whatever, for the salvation of mankind. And the story began to make sense to me, and I really was not exposed to what we call the Old Testament, which is really our Tanakh. I was just accepting a religion which was very similar to Hinduism, because it also believes in the incarnation of a God. And in fact, if you look at the history of Christianity, it really is just paganism of the Roman Empire that was replaced with various Christian or Jewish ideas. So really it was exactly the same type of religion. They believed that the main figure was born on December the 25th in a manger. The same story exists in other cultures. In Hinduism it exists, and in Buddhism, and in and in ancient Egyptian culture. So it really is a pagan idea when you look at it, which has just been copied and replaced with other ideas. So this was basically what I discovered in my growing up. I also want to point out about Christianity, since the title of this lecture is about Christianity, so I just wanted to explain something that Christianity is really, I came to the conclusion anyway, that Christianity really is a false religion, and it is flawed because many of the claims it makes are contradictory to the Old Testament. Actually, when I started to become exposed to what they call the Old Testament, what we call the Tanakh, I found that the Tanakh was so much more rich, interesting, and it led me to want to seek more. I started to believe that there was only one God, and that this God had to have created the world. But I myself was beginning to find the contradictions in the Old and the New Testaments, that they had sort of stuck together. So they believe that the main figure is the Messiah, and they try to prove this on the very beginning of the text by giving a lineage of the figure all the way from Adam Arishon all the way to his father Joseph. I started to follow other religions of faiths, so I looked into Islam, but Islam is very much similar because, again, everything that it takes is from, number one, either the Torah or the traditions of Judaism and also Christianity, and mixes it together. I guess the main thing that is interesting about these other two religions is that they all have one thing in common, which is that they accept that the Torah is true. They accept that Zman Matan Torah was a real thing. They don't, it's very interesting that if they're trying to make a new religion, they don't say, well, that one's wrong, and make up a new religion. They base everything on the fact that the Torah was given to the Jews. They don't deny that. So, this indicates, I think, quite clearly that Zman Matan Torah was a true event, because to them, to deny that Matan Torah and the Jews received the Torah wasn't true or didn't happen, or wasn't a real event, would be like us denying that 9/11 didn't happen. Matan Torah was a real event. It really happened, and really, I mean, I sort of came across a lecture during my search, which kind of led me mainly to come to Judaism, and this lecture was about why the giving of the Torah is the only verifiable true event of history. Because the thing with Judaism and the way that the Torah was given is that it was a national revelation, a revelation of God to 3 million people, cannot be denied by the Jewish people or their descendants. Every other religion begins with one person having a private revelation on their own, whether it's Muhammad on a mountain, or Mary having a dream that she was going to give birth miraculously or whatever. These are private revelations, and anyone can make up a private revelation and make up a religion overnight and get followers, and this happens all the time. In fact, when I was living with my mother in Surrey, I came across a group of Mormons. They call themselves Mormons. They're a type of Christianity which only started in the late 18th century, or early 19th century. And their religion is based on a revelation which supposedly a man called Joseph Smith got in America, where he was supposedly visited by an angel and given a new set of scriptures in addition to the New Testament. So it's like an addition to Christianity. And so that's an example of a religion that can be, made literally overnight. And when I was talking to these people, I learned a lot, and I would say my involvement with these Mormons is mainly what got me to look into the Torah and to understand why the Judaism really is the only true religion that can exist. In addition to that, the event of Matan Torah, I mentioned in my letter that there's no logical reason that this nation of Jews, of Israelites that left Egypt, would suddenly accept upon themselves 613 mitzvot. If you look at these mitzvot, some of them are very, you could understand if someone made up a religion and the commandments that were commanded in this religion were easy to follow, like eat pancakes every Wednesday or something very simple to follow. But the Torah is demanding a lot from people. It actually demands to keep Shabbat and to keep kashrut and to observe very rigid marriage laws, and kashrut and Sukkot and various other things. So it immediately brings to your mind the question of how did these people accept such a law, and if you look, it's quite obvious that the Torah, when it was given, it explained and it described what the Jews were going through, like up to that point. So it says the Jews were saved from Egypt, the sea split, manna fell from heaven, they were being fed, from Hashem, and all these many miracles were happening. And then on the day of Shavuot, they received the Torah, and inside the Torah, when they read it, they see that it explains everything they went through. So that's clearly, evident, because if the people, let's say, open the Torah and none of those things happened that is described in it, then quite obviously they would reject it. Like right now, if I told you that I had a revelation of a new religion and you were all taken from, I helped you, all escape China and come here, and many miracles happened. We flew in the air, and our clothes never wore out for 40 years. And then and you read this in the book, and I'm telling you that you have to now accept this Torah. None of this ever happened. You would obviously put me into a mental home and say, you're sorry, I'm not interested in what you're telling me. But the children of Israel accepted the Torah. That's a fact, because today we have Jews and everyone's still keeping all the mitzvot. So very clearly, this event had to, and everything written in the Torah has to be real. It has to have really been what they experienced. So right there, we can quite logically, if you use a little bit of seichel, you can actually prove right there that the Torah really is a true document and it's real. And the one that gave it is true, is the creator of the world. So I mentioned that I learned about Judaism at school. Our school was a public school. We were taught about world religions. And in that, in one of the classes, we were actually shown the Shema, the main prayer of the Jews. Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, on a board, on a sort of a whiteboard projector. And the writing was all in Hebrew, and it was transliterated underneath. And the teacher actually got us to say and recite Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And we all said it. We all said it. The whole class said it, and it resonated with me when I recited this again, and I saw it, and I saw the letters, and everything about it was just so beautiful and mesmerizing, and the Hebrew alphabet itself became something which I began to love, and I started to learn and teach myself. So I remember staying behind on that class because it was the last class of the day, and I wrote in my book, at the back of my book, in the Hebrew, I transcribed it, Shin, Mem, Ayin, and so on, and I took upon myself to learn Hebrew from then on, because I said this is such a beautiful language. And so that's basically how I learned Hebrew. I was about 14 at the time. So this is how I taught myself Hebrew, and this is why, Baruch Hashem, I can read Hebrew very well now, and it's really helped me so much in my conversion. I also mentioned, the Torah is true. I mentioned that the culture that I was immersed in was a culture of immorality, modesty, choshech, vanities, and this really is the culture of the goyim and the state of the world outside. It really is a place of degradation, and it's becoming ever more so. And the things which used to fulfill me in that lifestyle that I was living before weren't fulfilling me anymore, and I was deeply searching for a purpose. I was, I was always questioning why, being led to the question of what exactly is my purpose now in life, and what exactly should I be doing, and what goals should I have. And some, just to give an example, people in most of the people in the world, maybe their purpose in life is to enjoy, to make the most of life while they still live it. But really, that's not a good enough reason for existence, because the animals also enjoy a lot. If we look, the dogs are loving life, and the cats and the monkeys, all the other creatures of the world, they really are enjoying life. So could that really be the purpose of life? Some have the purpose of life is to be rich and to have lots of food and lots of acquisitions, but also the animals, if you look at some of them, also have a lot of acquisitions. A dog or a cat can go to a trash and can get a lot of food that we leave over, and they're really fed and provided for, and they're enjoying life very well. So if you look at nature and look at the world, those reasons for existence that most people have, or the purpose of life that most people have, aren't really they aren't really good enough, and unjustifiable, because most people live exactly like animals do and have almost exactly the same fulfillment that animals do. So by divine providence, I guess I was brought to books of Judaism in my search for purpose and meaning in life. So I came, one of the first books I came across, and to this very day I use on a daily basis, is the Messiah Yesharim of the Ramchal. And I was just, when I started to read it, I was just amazed at what it was teaching, and how on the very first chapter he begins to explain the duty of man in this world, of what is expected of a person and why we're here. And this encapsulated me, and just to read you a little bit, this is from the first chapter. Ramchal explains. Ki olam nivro Shimush Adam. If you will delve deeply into the matter of existence, you will note that the world was created to serve man. Ki im ha'adam nimshach achar ha'olam midrachek meboro. If a person is drawn towards the world and distances himself from the Creator, Hinehu mitkalkel umitkalkel ha'olam imo. He will be corrupted, and he will also corrupt the world with him. ואם הוא שולט בעצמו ונדבק בבוראו ומשתמש מן העולם רק להיות לו לסיוע לעבודת בוראו. And if he can rule over himself and cleave to his creator and use the world solely to aid him in serving his creator, הוא מתעלה והעולם עצמו מתעלה עמו. He will be elevated and the world will be uplifted with him. כי הנה עילוי גדול הוא לבריאות, כולם בהיותם משמשי האדם השלם המקודש ומקדושתו יתברך. For it is a tremendous step upward for all creation when it serves the person who has perfected himself, and that person becomes holy with the holiness of the Blessed One, Hashem. And this is quite clearly encapsulates almost entirely the purpose of our existence and or at least what we have to go through in our life, in this world. Another thing from the Gemara that I read and took to heart is in Kiddushin 40b, where it says, "Happy is the person who fulfills one good deed, for with that good deed he tips the scales to the side of merit for himself and for the whole world." And so that indicates and shows that really even one good deed, and if you we have to think of the world like a scales and the scales of merit, and even one good deed that a person does can tip the whole world onto the side of merit. And this is the power of a human being and how a human being and a Jew can affect the world. And so this led me to, at the time I was reading this, to want to be part of that, to want to have that, that involvement with the world and that avodah, that service. And this, to me, it was a very appealing reason for existence. I think that it is the responsibility of every human being who can, and every Jew who has seichel, to look into the purpose of life and the meaning of life, because sometimes we often think, I'm born into a certain religion or whatever, and now I have to just fulfill it. We have to know why. We have to always look for the purpose and the reason. The Zohar in the Zohar Chadash or Shir Shirim says something quite tremendous. It says the wisdom that a person needs to know in his life. First, there are many things that he needs to know. So the first thing he needs to know is to examine his master, his maker, the secret of his maker, of Hashem. We have to seek out Hashem in our life. The second thing is to know himself. The person has to know himself, to know who he is, how he was created, whence he came, and where he is going, and to know how the body is to be corrected in this world, and how the soul will stand in judgment before the King of all. And the third thing is to know and to search into the secrets of his soul. That is, the nefesh, which is within the body. Whence it came from, where did it come from, why is it in this body, here today and in the grave the next day. And the fourth thing is to examine this world and to know the world in which the person lives in, how this world has to be corrected. And then finally, you should look into the Torah, deeply into the Torah, to understand the upper world and to know the Creator, and he should learn everything about the next world from the Torah. And so I think it's important for everyone to consider this before the time that we're approaching Matan Torah, that why we are here, what our purpose in the world is, and the purpose of a Jew is, as the Ramchal explains in Derech Hashem. The goal of a Jew in the world is really to correct the world, because only the Jew has this responsibility. Only a Jew has the ability to fully correct the world and to bring it back to the stage it was before the Chet of Adam HaRishon, and the only means that we can do this is through the Torah which Hashem gave to us. We can only perfect ourselves and ultimately lead to the shlemut of the world, the tikkun of the world, through fulfilling our purpose and through fulfilling our and looking into the matters of the Torah. The final thing I want to say is, you might look at me and see that Baruch Hashem, I look like a very frum Jew, and I have a beard, but this doesn't come about from nowhere. I as with anything that you want to achieve in life, you've got to put a lot of effort, and it's not just the effort that matters. It's this is something that we can learn from from conversion. From my conversion story is that then the Rambam explains this, that we are affected mainly by our environment and the environment that we put ourselves in. So you can think of it like, and this is how I see it, that every Jew and every Jewish soul is like a seed which has a potential to become a very great tree. But the thing is that that potential is latent. It's not manifest. It's just within an internal thing which is within a person. But the only way that potential can be realized, just as the only way that you can a seed can fully grow into a good tree, is by putting it into the right environment, and with the right conditions it will sprout and become a very wonderful and fruit-bearing tree. So I think the same is with the Jew and the Jewish soul. If you really want a Jewish soul and a Jew to flourish and reach its full potential, because a Jewish soul is capable of so much, then it is necessary to choose for the individual to make that free choice and choose to be put himself into the right environment that will allow for the flourishing and the revelation and of that innate potential to be realized. And this is something that we can see in a Mishnah of Pirkei Avot. It says, Rabbi Yosei ben Kisma said, "Once I was walking on the road when a certain man met me and said, 'Shalom,' and I returned his greeting, 'Shalom.' He said to me, 'Rabbi, which place are you from?' I said to him, 'I'm from a great city of Chachamim and of Talmidei Chachamim, of scholars of sages.' He said to me, 'Rabbi, do you wish to live with us in our place? And I will give you 1,000,000 golden dinars, precious stones.'" Rabbi Yosef gives that answer that won't he reject, and he even says here all of the precious stones and all the money in the world, and he wouldn't move to a place where there's no Torah, because the thing is, Rabbi Yosef chose to live in a place of Torah and Chachamim, and that was the only way he knew that he could fully flourish and be the great sage that he was. And he knew that if he moved out of that area, even for a moment, all of everything he achieved and he could possibly be would not happen. It wouldn't. He would have lost his level and lost his. So the same with us and with me during my conversion. The first thing I was told to do was move into a Jewish area. So that's because only amongst Jews you can truly practice Judaism, and go to start attending the shul, and it's only by doing those things, living in a Jewish area, attending a shul regularly, going to shiurim, going to classes, and being close to the Talmidei Chachamim, the Rabbanim of our time, that we can possibly fully realize our potential and what we can become as a Jew. And so that's how I basically grew into and became who I am. And now that Baruch Hashem, I'm zocher to be learning in yeshiva in the evenings when I come from work, and really occupying all my spare time in learning Torah, limud Torah lishma, and I wouldn't have it any other way, because I know that Torah for me is life. And my mother sometimes asks me questions like, what, because she can't understand, I guess, why I've chosen this way of life and so much, and ask me questions like, what were you going to make of your life? Would you, maybe you want to be a certain someone in life one day, and it's good to go on vacations and to have lots of money, so go to university and all this sort of stuff. And I respond and I say, and I get that she doesn't understand, and I respond this, I say, I wouldn't have, that way of life is not for me. It's just not. I no longer have a taste for it. Maybe once upon a time I used to want to have something like that, but now that I've been exposed to the Torah and I've been exposed to the truth, that really nothing else, everything else doesn't matter. The only thing that matters for me is Torah, living a life as a Jew, as a servant of Hashem, and being part of the mission of the Jewish nation, Mamlechet Kohanim, the Goy Gadol, Goy Kadosh, light to the world, because that's really our mission in the world, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So that's so I guess that concludes my story. And with Hashem, we should all be zocher to have a renewed sense of purpose and a renewed commitment with Hashem and with our learning of the Torah, and merit to have a chelek in the Torah, and bring about the redemption together through our service and through our observance of Torah, and we should all merit to see the redemption of the world, and of the great redemption, and